human behavior is getting worse and worse every year. Attention spans, self-awareness, people getting sucked in and manipulated by influencers online. I don't want to have a separate dinner from the wife and kids. I'm like, well, you've got 80 kilos of muscle. Your wife over here has 40. Where's this mindset that the man of the house should be eating the same fucking meal as his woman and his children?
Coach shouldn't be there to motivate you. We can steer you in the right direction, but at the end of the day, you should be here for your own personal reasons and make them painful enough or the end goal enjoyable enough to the point that you're reminding yourself of that stuff consistently.
God, I don't want to eat the same thing every day. That's not sustainable. It doesn't have to be, man.
More people need to challenge themselves because it's not challenging yourself, which has gotten you to the point that you've gotten to now.
We get the best results, and guys keep the results that they get with us because they've adhered to the rebuild. My 3 words is trust that process. Why? Because we know what we're doing. How do we calm the pop natty? No holds barred. Yeah, well, we're leaning towards a bit of no holds barred, aren't we? All right, well, here we are, episode 11, I believe.
Yes,
2025, first episode of the year with MPT OGs, alumni, original founding partners, Coach E-Man on the right there, Joe on the left. Today's topic, I want to talk about the adherence equation. But before we go into that, I want to ask you guys, because Joe, you obviously run sales, gatekeeper, and E-Man, you're running coaching at the moment. What have you guys noticed with either the clients or the prospects in 2025? Any standout things you guys have noticed? That is an eerie silence.
What you notice it's different or just in general?
Well, I feel like human behavior is getting worse and worse every year, right? And I feel like you guys are experiencing that as much as I am. Attention spans, self-awareness, people getting sucked in and manipulated by influencers online. So their whole perspective of what it takes to rebuild, expectations on service, etc. I feel like some of that stuff is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, well, personally for me, what I've noticed, obviously speaking to a lot of guys coming into the system, a lot less guys I'm speaking to are doing this because it's a New Year's resolution. It seems to be more personal reasons, which I think is that's because of the way the business is run and the way we advertise to our guys. It's not a sort of a fluffy program that excites guys to get into the program. It's high quality, which is going to attract a high quality purpose behind why they want to do it. I think maybe 1 or 2 guys have said they're doing this because it's a new year, new me kind of thing. Yeah,
interesting.
Else.
So you're saying people are actually wanting to rebuild themselves as a person, which partially is getting their health in order, body fat levels healthy, etc. Less about this, I want to lose 8 kilos, 10 kilos, New Year's resolution, new year, new me.
Yeah.
Interesting. There you go. Okay. So for you, it's been more of a positive.
Yeah, there's been not many negatives to it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Very good. What about on your end?
It's hit and miss. I noticed that anyone who's coming through the system, if they're paying attention and they've gone through all the rebuild of the rebuild that we've done recently, because for all of you watching at home, we've just recently rejigged everything and kind of revamped the whole rebuild system for our clients to give a better experience for everyone, but also to that education piece and kind of helping everyone connect the dots a little bit more. So I find that we've done such a good job on that end, or you specifically have done such a good job on that end, that anyone who actually submits to the process, it's a night and day difference. It's a breeze to coach them through it. And generally speaking, the results are better than they were before.
Yeah.
Where on the flip side, though, anyone who's not quite submitting to that process, not really trusting us and still coming through with maybe that old mindset of, New Year's resolution, or I just want to drop 10 kilos, are still really stuck in that Instagram world that, with all the influencers giving their really quick, rapid fire knowledge, which again, as we all know, is contextual, right? So they have these strong ideas, these strong beliefs, these strong opinions based on these influences that they follow and they care about and they feel strongly about, without really knowing the context or even necessarily how and why all these things work. And their opinions are much stronger, which then can make our job a little bit more difficult because, again, everyone thinks they know it all.
Yeah. Which I think is a good way for us to segue into today's topic, which is the adherence equation. And like you're saying, there's context, So I think the best example we can use with that is that a lot of the influencers are giving short-term solutions. Here's a low-calorie, yogurt to have. Forget the fact that it's full with 15 grams of sugar and has no nutritional benefit, but it's less, high in calories.
Yeah.
That has a place in a meal plan, doesn't it?
Absolutely, man. And, we need some filler in there sometimes, especially when, the start of the rebuild, right? When the calories are particularly a lot lower. Yeah, okay, sometimes we need some filler in there. And particularly if you have filler, you probably want it from protein more than anything else.
Correct.
It's going to be the most satiating, absolutely. But yeah, you just reminded me of something. It's like the old days, right, where they used to say what healthy foods were, or some nuts, or some some salmon, or some fish, or whatever. It's like, yeah, in context, sure they're healthy, but it's now the flip side, where before it was more of a focus on what's healthy, now it's a focus on what are the calories. It's again this really short, sharp, rapid fire information without context. Honestly, a lot of times on the person consuming the content, because we're so used to just, the doom scrolling. Yeah. It's like moving on to the next one without any care to actually dig deeper.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to clarify what you mean in terms of context, it's context around your situation and what it is that you need.
The individual.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. A guy who's trying to lose 15, 20, 30, 40 kilos worth of body fat. That is the context where that information is not necessarily relevant. It's not that it's not good information, because it is helpful in some degree.
Absolutely.
But for your situation, the context isn't there.
Yeah, again, without that care or that due diligence to dig deeper as to why, how, all those sorts of little intricacies, and then you're right, how it works with you particularly, that information is just information. It's the same as it's a fact more than it is actual helpful information.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes these guys are making it because it's shareable. It's shareable content to people that aren't really problem aware. There are a lot of people out there that, want to be healthier and just have it from a general understanding. So those pieces of content are shareable, which from the producers or creators, agenda, that's what they want, right? They want more followers, they want virality, they want to be able to, do all that kind of stuff. Whereas what we're talking about is specific context for the individual that has, 30 or 40 kilos of body fat to lose, which is interesting. I actually saw something recently from Joseph Menzel, who runs Massive Joe's, who's been in the industry for as long as I have. I think he might be 40, a little bit older than we are, but I am anyway. And he was saying, like, he's been around the fitness game for so long, as have I, and we see trends come in. The current trend is it's all about calories. It doesn't really matter. The trend before that, it might have been about macros. Trend before that, it might have been about protein intake. Trend before that, it might have been about, as you said, eating healthy options.
Keto, intermittent fasting, all the rest of it.
Yeah. The reality.
Fat's bad.
Well, fat's good, fat's bad.
Low fat,
yeah. But whereas the reality is it's all of it. Like if you're a bloke, 35 plus and you want to lose 20, 30, 40 kilos of fat and get your metabolism back up so you can enjoy some balance, it's actually all of them. It's eating wholesome, highly bioavailable, micronutrient-rich foods. It's eating correct macros. It's getting your calories in, and it's choosing foods that keep you full. It's not any one thing over the other. And it's also, being able to upgrade your lifestyle to reflect the physique and the energy and the man you want to become. Sometimes I used to get frustrated at guys being like, oh, I don't want to have a separate dinner from the wife and kids. I'm like, well, you've got 80 kilos of muscle. Your wife over here has 40. There's an element of you should be eating different to your wife and kids. Like, where's this mindset that the man of the house should be eating the same fucking meal as his woman and his children? Yeah. Like, in what reality do you think you're going to look a particular way if you're eating the same foods as these people? You know what I mean? Like, I used to get frustrated at that, but it's contextual. You can have the same foods as what they're eating after your metabolism's rebuilt, as some balance, as a small percentage of what you're actually consuming over the whole day.
Most definitely. And just to add to that as well, the reason why is, as we know, to get a full rebuild, to build the metabolism and to actually fix all of that and to get you moving in the right direction, I tell this to clients all the time, a 5% deviance from your compliance and your diet can make all the difference and slow down your momentum, right? And that's the last thing you want when you're in the middle of a rebuild.
Yeah.
But once you're maintaining, like we've always said, to maintain your physique and your appearance, it's anywhere from 10 to 20% deviance from what you do regularly day to day is fine. And obviously genetics play a factor in terms of how much deviance you can have. Like someone like you could probably have closer to 20% deviance from your regular diet.
Yep.
Someone like me, I'm closer to 10%. I know if I go over that, I'm getting fluffy pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, I think it's genetics too, but it's also a period of time that you've been rebuilt.
That's it.
You know, I've had the rebuild result for 20-something years. So, but even if I did deviate for a period of time, my identity would reset me automatically to coming back to tighten up. Like that's just, you know, how I see myself.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys, they've spent, some of them, 15, 20 years being, you know, a fat cunt, if we want to use the industry's fucking buzzwords. So it's very difficult for them to switch their thinking straight away. And if we go back to the adherence equation, I think we could offer as much context as we want on this podcast. But adherence is basically meaning following a meal plan, like actually sticking to it. And the reason that's so important when we start is because most blokes that come to us, their metabolism is, let's just say, suboptimal. It's been, let's call it abused, but it's not really abused because it's part of the Australian culture. So we've got to speak with context.
Well, they have abused their body. Let's be honest. Like it's again, the Australian culture is not really lending itself to having a healthy vessel, right?
Correct.
But most guys would admit to that. Even Craig did. You know, you don't go to the pub and have one beer, you have 10.
Well, he said, what's better than one beer too?
Yeah.
Didn't he? Yeah. So I think sometimes they've got to be realistic. And a lot of them have kids, so their sleep has been fucked as well. Not through their own fault, through waking up for helping their wife and the kids. Yeah. A lot of people got hammered in COVID, which, you know, you get reminded of constantly on these phone calls that the guys keep saying they haven't recovered since COVID. I mean, you guys weren't allowed to exercise for 18 months.
Some of us did for, you know, resistance bands.
Yeah.
There's always a way.
Yeah. So I think...
yes. Yeah. No gyms.
Yeah. So just circling back to the adherence equation and why it's so important is most of our clients do have a suboptimal metabolism. We can call it damaged, where they haven't slept well, they've abused it with alcohol. They haven't eaten well, they haven't eaten enough protein, they haven't been in the gym consistently lifting weights, their testosterone levels are low because of all the above. The direct link of low testosterone and too much body fat is pretty evident now, plus sleep as well. So when they're coming in, we are putting them on low calories because we have to do that because they don't have the metabolic capacity or function to eat higher calories and still lose weight. At the end of the day, you still need to be in a caloric deficit. But if your maintenance calories are low because your metabolism isn't functioning, then we have to bring your calories even lower to get you in that deficit. And if you can't stick to that deficit, we can never build your calories. And then these guys end up in this like endless loop of like, why am I hungry? Why can't I have more balance? Surely 6 beers won't make a big difference. Right? Surely one bender won't matter. But it does because you're so far behind the 8 ball. That's the analogy I use, is these guys are so far behind the 8 ball that you have to do a period of time on 15, 16, 17, 18, 1900 calories. Stick to that, regardless of how you feel and if you're hungry. And then we can slowly increase those calories over time that acts as fuel on the metabolic or metaphoric campfire that actually rebuilds you out of that situation so that you can have some balance and introduce some of these lifestyle luxuries that you want to do back into your lifestyle.
Definitely. And I usually tell people it's like hitting the reset button. We need to get your calories that low so that we can actually shock the system, shock the body and go, hey, like what's happening here? Let's press reset and then build from there.
Yeah.
Right. I think the other thing too with the beers and stuff, I tell clients this as well. It's not so much the calories that I'm worried about. We can equate that. That's not the problem. The problem is mechanistically what it does internally.
Correct.
Right. And that's what a lot of people also don't seem to get is your body's systemic. It can only do any certain number of functions all at one time. It's already, dropping body fat and adding muscle mass at the same time, which are opposing sort of mechanisms. And on top of that, you're trying to recover from not only your workouts, but also whatever stress you're holding from the day, whether it be your job, the kids, the wife, whatever other personal issues are going on in your day-to-day, as well as if you're not getting enough sleep, you're waking up every day in the red, your recovery's down. Like there's so many factors and mechanisms at play.
Okay, so it wouldn't be MPT without a tech fault. So we just ran out of storage on one of our cameras.
We had to turn it off and on. Which
is great. So E-Man was in the middle of explaining that the reason why alcohol is so detrimental to a rebuild, because we're in a calorie deficit, we're trying to lose fat, yet we're trying to gain muscle, we're trying to improve metabolism, upgrade lifestyle, sleep, all that kind of stuff. And you were talking about the body being systemic and it's can only really do 1 or 2 things at once. It can't do 3 things and rid the system of alcohol while it's burning fat and building muscle and optimizing hormonal function.
Yeah, and all the other thousands of other, pathways and kind of things that happen on a day-to-day basis as well.
Yeah.
That's why sleep is so important, and that's why that's one of our pillars that we focus on and get clients to say, hey, you need quality sleep. That's it's super important because it's the only time your body's recovering and doing nothing else.
Yeah. And the reality is with sleep, they don't need to take fucking melatonin or anything. It really is just limiting phone time before bed, potentially reading, and just calming yourself down before you go to bed is the best way to get sleep. Most people fall asleep with their phone in their hand and then wonder why it's a patchy sleep. So it's quality of sleep as well, and that can be easily done by just putting your fucking phone down an hour before bed and, communicating to your family potentially, or reading a book. It's not that fucking hard. Or getting the right pillow, getting the right, just basic common sense stuff.
Yeah, there's stuff like that. I think the biggest thing that I've heard from our clients as well is just how exercise and a good diet has impacted their sleep as well.
Correct, yeah. Well, that's what I say to guys too. Like, your sleep will probably, as a downstream side effect of the rebuild, it'll probably improve anyway. But if it's not, try the phone stuff and, even the temperature of the room, blackout blinds, or, the old, what do they call that?
Oh, the eye mask, the sleep mask?
Yeah, eye mask, yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I agree. And I mean, if you do think about it, I mean, alcohol is fermented fruit, usually, most of it, isn't it? So it's poisonous to the body, which is why it kind of gives you that buzz. So it takes the body up to 4 days to remove that. And during those 4 days, fat loss and muscle building, fat oxidation or muscle protein synthesis is, I say to the guys, it's retarded. We don't have a percentage on how much it is retarded, but I've heard a lot of fitness people say your body cannot lose fat while there's alcohol in your system. We don't say that extreme, but we just, encourage these guys that, hey, if you want to rebuild and do, like you said, do things that are already opposing, lose fat and build muscle at the same time. Like, that's already a fluke as a natural.
Yeah.
And then you're wanting to get, alcohol in there as well. Like, you've got to be realistic to a degree,
Definitely.
Yeah, very good. So I guess back to what we were saying. I mean, at the end of the day, the fat loss equation is mostly going to be calories in versus calories out. It's the energy law. If you're consuming more energy than what you're burning, you're going to store fat. If you're consuming less energy than what you're burning in your day-to-day activity plus your exercise, you're going to lose fat. Specifically what I tell our guys, which most people know listening to this, is the 7,700 calories in 1 kilo of fat, roughly, give or take. All right, the good news is there's 7 days in the week. So the maths is you need to be in around a 1,100 calorie per day energy deficit created through either caloric restriction, which is eating a prescribed meal plan like we do, or following an influencer's app. If you want to go down that route, that's fine, and or exercise. So when we create calories at the start, it's all customized around that. If you come to me and you're already training 5 days a week, and you come to me and you're training once a week or none a week, then the deficit created through nutrition is going to be different, because E-Man here is already burning XYZ calories from exercising 5 times a week, whereas Joe here is burning none. So he gets an add of calories being burnt through adding in 5 workouts, whereas you don't, because you're already training 5 days a week. And that's the context with calorie deficits, isn't it? It's created through that. It's about us looking at both factors. How much exercise is this guy doing? How much exercise is this guy doing? How much lean body mass does he have? Therefore, what's his BMR, basal metabolic rate? What's this guy's? And that's where we come up with our caloric formulas. And the thing with the coaching is that the formula's great, but it's only a guideline based off my 20 years of experience. It's usually pretty bang on, but sometimes the individual's genetics or whatever it may be, they'll either lose more fat than we thought, so great, we've got them in a bigger deficit than we thought, or they'll lose a little bit less. And it's the coaching that comes in that adjusts based on how the body responds. I was saying to you before that Philip Zada, who lost 41 kilos in just over 12 months, we filmed with him early last year, 38-year-old, 39-year-old, 2 or 3 kids, multiple businesses, ton of stress, never lifted before. I actually overestimated his metabolism when he first came to me. So the first fortnight we did with him, I think I put him on 1,800 calories, just based on his lean body mass. And I think he was like 130 or 125 kilos or something when he started. And he didn't lose what I said. I said, oh, you'll lose 2 to 4 kilos in your first fortnight for sure. And he didn't. And I was like, oh, okay, look, I've overestimated your metabolism. That's okay. Don't stress. Mine isn't fast either. My appetite's not that big. I've worked with guys that have a slower metabolism. Don't stress. Let me pull your calories back. And I pulled it back to 1,500, like I was telling you. And I said, you will lose 1.5 this week. And he did. And I said, how's your appetite? And he goes, no, it's not really triggered. I said, let's do another week. And then he lost another 1.5. And then we're able to start increasing. So then we did 16, 17, maybe 1850, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And 12 months later, we lost 40, 41 or 42 kilos with Phil. So it never works. It's not always going to work 100% based on all that data. And again, that's where the rebuild is a coaching program. It's not, a 12-week program. Just give me a meal plan and give me a training plan. Or, how hard can it be? Just give me this. We need to actually see how it works and implement it with the individual.
That's why I tell guys, like, we're learning your body as you are every week as well. Like, again, to your credit, you're very good with your starting meal plans. Very rarely is it off.
Yep.
But even then, like, how quickly it slows down versus how quickly it speeds up, or like, there's lifestyle factors, genetic factors, all these different things that we need to go through week by week to really adjust for the client, like we do every week. So we're not doing things based on data and science, guys, because if we did, you're not going to get the result that we get, right? We optimize week to week to make sure that we're doing the best that we can every single week.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody is different. Some guys, we can get their calories up over 3,000 and other guys we can't. It doesn't matter though, because like if you're eating 3,000 calories and you're full, if you're eating 2,300 calories like me sometimes and I'm full, what's the difference? There's actually no difference, is there?
Well, it goes back to what you were talking about mindset, right? And I think some of the limiting beliefs that some people have in terms of balance. I've got to go out and have balance. I've got to go out and go on a bender or, go to a restaurant and have every single thing that's on the menu, right? I know personally from personal experience of being fat for most of my life, that's kind of how you see it when you do eat out is, you it's this gluttonous sort of
let your hair down.
This gluttonous lifestyle that you lead, man, because again, whether it is an emotional bandage and it's the only good thing in your life at that time, I've been there, guys. I've been there. It sucks, but if you're maintenance and you're full on 2,300 calories, guess what? You're not going to be able to do that and maintain your physique. It's just not possible. Yeah,
it's so interesting, isn't it? There's just so many different nuances of people's expectations and stuff like that. Like we were even talking in the car that, the way that we make a 1,500 or 1,600 calorie meal plan is in, our opinion, the best way to eat that amount of calories and feel somewhat satiated. So for example, like I'm big on a chicken wrap for lunch for these guys, especially some of the mini wraps, because in my opinion, it's the best way to eat that amount of calories and feel satiated. Like in some of these wraps that I give these guys, the smaller ones, it's like 25 grams of carbs. I was like, mate, if I give you 25 grams of carbs from rice, you're going to be swearing my name the minute you finish that little Tupperware container meal because there's fuck all rice in there. Yeah. Whereas like if you put 200 grams of chicken breast in there, unlimited green salad in that wrap, and you have, raw carrot, which is one of our MPT non-negotiables. It's a low bloat, hormone optimizing fiber. You're pretty full. You can wash it down with a can of what Joe's got over there or, a can of Pepsi Max sugar-free soft drink, and you're pretty full for the next 3 hours until your next snack or your next meal. Whereas if we chose the same calories from rice or pasta or what other carb options are there other than bread, rice, pasta, potatoes?
Yeah.
You're going to be licking the bowl going, oh, this isn't going to work. I can't do it.
And the other element too, right, is just having the time to be able, being meal preppable as well as the other thing, making sure that it's doable and that, who's going to be able to cook potatoes in the middle of their day when they're working? Not, I don't know if you've had soggy potatoes before, but I have, I don't mind it, but I just need for fuel at this point. So.
Yeah. The thing is too, like as we, because clients want balance, variety, flavor. These are some of the words that we used to get a bit frustrated with from clients. You can have all that once we get your calories up 2,000 over, 2,000 plus, and you're eating 200 grams of protein. Let's use 200 as a bit of a kind of ball mark. That's 800 calories gone. Yep. You got 1,200 calories to spare with carbs and fats. Then we can start to slide in some options. We can do a green curry or a spaghetti bolognese or a chicken pesto pasta or whatever it may be. We can start to slide in some of these options as we go when we get your calories there. But when you're on 1,600, we don't have room to do that. And the thing is too, back to the adherence equation, if you can adhere to that for the month, let's call it, because there's probably a month where they're hungry or 6 weeks, some of them, then we can get to that point where we can create options for you and start to slide that in. Definitely. And then you've also proven to us as the client that you can stick to a plan. So now we trust you with 3 lunch options. When you first come to us, if I give you 3 lunch options, I don't trust that you're going to not choose the fourth, which is Macca's on the way home from work because the boss gave you a fucking headache during the day. Or the missus asked you to do something, you rolled your eyes, you had a tough day at work, you're hungry. You're probably going to pick the fourth option, and which is your favourite takeaway thing. And go, oh, it doesn't make too much difference, does it? So we try to rein in that kind of stuff at the start because we have to, because again, the client has such a suboptimal metabolism or a damaged metabolism from years of drinking, COVID, not exercising, sleep deprivation due to having kids, stress, whatever it may be. We have to start them low. And the only way to start them low is to give them something rigid that we've found over the years works, which is, most people's starting meal plan. They're very similar depending on the individual. Yeah.
I find that as well. What I tell people is compliance is not just, eating the same calories that's on the meal plan. It's not just eating, the meal plan itself. For me, when I ask my clients, hey, how adherent were you this week as a percentage, or how compliant were you as a percentage, I also count meals out. So even if you're still having a steak and salad, that you go into the restaurant, guess what? That brings your compliance down a little bit. Simply because you're not sure how that's actually cooked, what they've put into it, how, what's been done to it. But also too, generally speaking, foods that you eat out, I usually say are generally about double what you cook for yourself in terms of calories. So even though it's the same food or a healthy alternative or a healthy option, for me, anything that's not cooked by you, prepared by you, made by you, that's not on the plan that we've actually set out for you is not compliance. And the reason I say that is because there is an element of eating the same thing every single day. Again, your body's mechanistic, right? So the more that you can do that, guess what's one less thing it has to do? Process that food, because it's gotten so good at processing the same thing every day.
Agree.
So that's one less thing you have to worry about while you're getting the result. So great, your body can now divert attention more into burning body fat and building muscle mass, the thing that we're here to do.
Spot on. Yeah. And the thing with context is, because people go, I don't want to eat the same thing every day. That's not sustainable. It doesn't have to be, man. The idea is to rebuild you. Like Alex Peacock, who we filmed with last year, who lost 41 kilos, his calories have been rebuilt so high. He's left now. He doesn't need us anymore. That he's like, I can't eat all this food. I was like, what a problem to have. Great. Eat a little bit less during the week and then go out and have a bit more on the weekend with your wife and your new kid. But he did the rebuild. He was with us for 18 months to lose that 41 kilos naturally, double his testosterone. He was able to have kids when he couldn't prior. To now with a point where he's never going to get, past 15% body fat ever again because his calories are built so high. So you don't have to do it forever. What E-Man's saying is right, especially when you're new and maybe if things are slowing down and being a bit stubborn, but you only have to do a rebuild once, one and done, and you're good.
What's funny is that the quickest way to get the result is also the most sustainable.
Agree.
So if you get from A to B in 6 months and you actually go through the process, you're 100% compliant and whatnot, generally speaking, your calories that we can build you up to and your metabolism that we've built is going to be much higher than the guy who is maybe not compliant through most of it. Takes them 9, 12 months to do it, but they've always been like this. Their ending calories are never as high as the guy who just went, you know what, head first, let's do it. I'm in your hands. I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah, spot on. So to name some names, Alex Peacock's one. Sugi was one as well. His calories were really high.
Definitely. Kingy. Nate Jorgensen.
Yeah, huge. Unreal. Yeah. Even Josh Weir.
Yep.
Yeah, Matty Ward, early guy. Ryan Thomas, who's 42, 43, who still messages us on Instagram saying he's 10%. These guys, their secret was adherence for as long as possible. And if they did fuck up, it'd be one meal and they'd be straight back on the plan. They didn't have this mindset that a lot of people have. It's like, oh, well, I fucked up on Friday. I'll just fuck up this weekend, start fresh Monday. Those are the ones that it just draws it out, doesn't it? It just takes forever to get their metabolism going. Versus the guys I just listed, who if they had a cheap meal or a drink or whatever, it was one little thing and they got straight back into the plan.
But it was also never overindulgent either for them. Like those guys also too, if they did have something off menu, off plan, whatever, they talk to me about it first of all, or talk to you about it. We'd help them adjust, and it was never just I'll do whatever I want. It was like, I had a little bit of this, which was genuinely a little bit of it. And so in terms of overall calories, they overate, probably not all that much.
Exactly. Right? If any, across the space of the week.
Exactly. Right.
Do you want to unpack the fact that obviously all those guys we've worked with have gotten to a point where they're the ability to maintain the result has improved significantly to the point where you said before that Josh probably would never need to work with a coach ever again. Part of the point that I'm trying to get across to a lot of the guys when we speak to them, when they've come in and they're taking a look at our program after working with a BFT, an F45, a local PT down the gym, what I'm trying to say to them is that this should be the last time you ever have to go work with a coach ever again.
Correct.
If you're doing the program properly. So for those guys who've left the system, maybe just explain what that actually looks like to a point where they don't really need us anymore. You said Josh doesn't need us anymore.
Yep.
How are we getting a guy to that point in time where 5-10 years down the track, they're probably still able to maintain the result? They don't need to continue to go pay for more and more and more coaches. Maybe just unpack that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for starters, by being part of the rebuild, we're shifting their identity. So like your Josh, your Alex, your Nate, give me some more names. Even Phil Oliveira. Right, Phil Zada, all these guys, Ryan, Matty Ward that we film with, Mubasha even.
Glindemann.
Yeah, Craig Glindemann. They no longer have the identity of the slob that they did before they come with us. So we've obviously helped them become the new version of themselves. And you become something new by changing your daily actions and your daily habits. So we got these guys in the gym 5 days a week. We got them eating a meal plan. I mean, the word meal plan and nutrition and stuff, it just gets abused so much. That's so...
It's like a dirty word now.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. And then you've got other people saying, eat what you want. As long as you're in a deficit, you're going to look great. And, sure, to get better swimmer, you get in the water. Okay, well, what next? Anyway, so these guys have the education now around making better food choices. They've fallen in love with the process and how they feel when they go to the gym and train properly, heavy resistance training, high intensity, hour workout, the most. They know how they feel like that, so they want to continue that. So their lifestyle has been upgraded. They're now addicted to the gym 4 to 5 times a week. They want to go. It's not they're going because they're paying us and the coach is saying we have to go. Whereas a lot of people, I think, don't enjoy BFT, F45, one-on-one PT with the bloke who's on his phone trying to pick up the chickie scene. Like the stuff I see in the gym is horrendous. I've trained in the top influencer gym in the country. Apparently, I'm seeing people talk about World's Gym in Burleigh as the top influencer gym, and even some of the PTs there. Some of them are great, but a lot of them are on their phone. So of course the client's never going to enjoy that. Whereas we teach them how to train. We upgrade their program every 4 weeks, so they're getting different cycles of programs constantly. So let's say they're with us for 6 months. They've got 6 different program variations across 5 different muscle groups. So they pretty much know what works for their body and how to train, right? So they're enjoying the process. They're educated about nutrition. They know how they feel when they do it. So therefore they want to keep doing it at an 80-20 balance. So they want to be good Monday to Friday, let's say, and do that. And then on the weekend, they still want to have enough protein because we've drummed into their mind how important protein is. The kiwi fruit, the non-negotiables, the super green sap, the lemon in the morning, all that kind of stuff. I think that they get addicted to how they feel on that. And they've shifted their identity as someone that wants to continue to feel like that and look like that. So therefore, they implement 80%, 90% of what they've learned with us because they're enjoying it and it's easy to do anyway. And that's how they sustain and maintain the results.
From personal experience as well, just having been someone who was obviously severely overweight and then got myself in shape, all these guys have the same thing as well. I check in with some of these clients after they've left. And I ask them, hey, just how you doing? What's the update? Where you at? Where you sitting? You still training? Still on your meal plan? And all of them, especially everyone that's been on your YouTube, all of them have been that to the T where they've maintained their result. And I'm like, great, we've done our job. But part of that is when you get so overweight and you genuinely don't like what you look like in the mirror, you don't like what you see in the mirror, it's very powerful because you notice even 5 kilos, right? That is more than enough to send someone going, right, I need to rein it back in. I don't ever want to get back there. And a lot of us have that pain from where we used to be after having worked so hard together with your coach for, 6, 9, 12 months, some of these guys, 18 months. You don't ever want to get back there ever again. Like it's a really dark and shit place. So you get better, especially because we work together week to week. And this is the other thing that's really important about the check-ins is we get to discuss what's happening week by week. You get to get in your own body a bit more and start to experience this stuff if you don't deviate, right? Because if you're still submitting to your old habits, not adherent, not compliant, well, you're not really learning, right? But if you're adherent, you're compliant, and we're talking through these changes week by week, you're kind of conceptualizing what's happening week by week, that again, once you're done with us, you don't need us because you can take your own inventory.
Correct.
You can go, great, how am I weighing this week? Oh, I'm a little bit up. What's happening? All right, do I maybe need to pull back on the calories? Or do I just need to follow my plan for a week and see what happens? Cool. All right, and then adjust from there. So a lot of it is, yes, all the work that we've done, absolutely. But yeah, I'd say the identity shift is the biggest thing of I hate myself to I never want to hate myself again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to kind of summarize that whole conversation, that right there, and I'm willing to say this because we're all aware of it, is why we're more expensive than just about anyone in the industry. So you're going to pay more money to work with us than you would with anyone else. But you then get to a point where your body's been reset, your lifestyle's been upgraded, you can eat pretty much what you want 20% of the time. And you'd never have to pay for a coach ever again.
Yeah.
Which is
Sounds
why
like a bit of a no-brainer to me.
that's why we call it a rebuild.
Yeah.
We're rebuilding these guys.
Added benefit for any dads out there too. I mean, how great that you get to pass this knowledge onto your kids one day, you know, to help them achieve their best. Like, that's unreal, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I know that's one thing that Phil and I have talked about a lot. Phil de Oliveira is like how much he's trying to implement that with his kids at the moment. You know, they play soccer at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, this has been amazing in terms of really eye-opening of how we used to eat versus how we eat now and how we should be eating moving forward, so that when they're older and they start getting into girls and all the rest of it in high school, well, dad's going to have some experience and some knowledge to pass on to help them get in the best shape of their life. So.
For sure. So I guess in a sentence, I'm going to put you both on the spot. How do these guys crack the adherence equation? Because it's proven now, surely, if you're watching this, you've seen our YouTube stuff. If you haven't, go and have a look at all of our results, either on my Instagram or just on the YouTube playlist of client rebuilds. And that was last year alone. This year, we're going to hopefully double that. We get the best results, and guys keep the results that they get with us because they've adhered to the rebuild, right? My 3 words is trust that process. Why? Because we know what we're doing. You know, trust the science was something that was out in COVID. That fucked everyone. I'm not saying trust the science. I'm saying trust our process and look at the results.
Yeah. Well, I'll go sort of more 30,000 foot view because I'm assuming you're probably going to go slightly deeper. I would say that
Come closer to your mic.
Any coach's job is not to be there to kind of smack you on the ass and tell you what to do. It's to remind you of why this is important to you. So whatever reasons that me and you or me and one of the other enrollment coaches has spoken about on your call around why you want to do this. Maybe you're not feeling comfortable in your own skin. Maybe you do want to be there for your kids. Maybe there's any underlying health concerns that you've got. It's our job to remind you of those things when things get tough, but it's also your job to remind you of those things at the end of the day. A coach shouldn't be there to motivate you. We can steer you in the right direction, but at the end of the day, you should be here for your own personal reasons and make them painful enough or the end goal enjoyable enough to the point that you're reminding yourself of that stuff consistently. That's how you'll stay adherent at the end of the day.
I want to say both. Like it really is you need to have your why and be very clear on your why and what this means to you, and always remind yourself of that, right? None of this half-assed, good enough. It's just a bit of loose skin left is something that we hear a lot of the time, which oftentimes it's not. There's still another 10, 20 kilos of fat under there, guys.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. But yeah, what's your why? And then trust that you're in the right place to get you to whatever that end result that you want to get to is, because we've got the experience, we've got the results, we've got the proof that we know what we're talking about. Yeah, I can't explain.
You're spot on. And for these guys that have, let's say, 30 kilos of fat, 35 plus, it is your only option. There's no other option.
Yeah.
Ozempic, they're showing the downsides of Ozempic and what that does. It steals your muscle tissue, ruins your fucking testosterone, etc. And you end up looking like 100 kilos of melted candle wax. Who wants that? Every other online thing is mostly about, automate and scale. That's the trend. I have people in my inbox daily trying to get me, we can teach you how to do this. You should be doing this, blah. No, I don't want to do that. We will never put growing the company's income above the client's result. The minute the cordial gets weak, we'll pull back. It doesn't happen. So
quality over quantity, which is something that I want to bring up in terms of the way that we're actually building out the system for our guys. I'm yet to speak to a client who's potentially looking to enroll into the system where they've actually used an in-body scan to tailor fit a meal plan to their body. So there is an immediate point of difference. If any of you guys out there that see that we use in-body scans, it's almost always being used as a progress tracker. That's why your coach will get you to 2-1. Yet to come across a guy who said they've worked with a coach, maybe a nutritionist, but even then nutritionists don't specialise in what it is that we do. If anything, their knowledge is quite surface level.
The Australian food pyramid, mate. What do you mean?
Yeah, whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
that's the point of difference in terms of quality over mass quantity in regards to the fitness industry.
Yeah, agree. You touched on something before that was good, where you said it's not the coach's job to motivate you. It's the coach's job to remind you of why the result's important. And you mentioned your why as well. So it's having that. Most people come from pain with us. It's not, I want to look like Zac Efron from Baywatch, or I want to look like Craig, whatever his name is, from Bond. It's usually, I don't want to be out of breath for putting my shoes on, or I don't want to have to keep pulling my t-shirt down all the time, or I don't want to be, tired and cranky for the kids. It's typically reminding yourself of that pain that's caused by the state that you're in, and avoiding that pain and moving away from that pain and becoming, fulfilling your potential to a degree. That is what people need to use as their driving force.
Definitely.
And what I say to the guys with the before photos on their original meal plan call, I'm like, these photos are great for us to track progress. So if you're losing weight but you're still not happy, it's really good to line the photos up and have your co-coach line the photos up monthly or at the end of the 12 weeks or whatever it may be. But they're also good for you to use to give yourself a smack. So if you're thinking about sleeping through your alarm because it's leg day and you can't be fucked, pull up those photos and give yourself that smack and say, no, that's the person, that's the decision making that gets me to look like this guy here that's causing me this pain, whatever it is. No energy for the kids, missus not attracted, no libido, can't see the old fellow when they're looking down in the shower, can't put their shoes on, always pulling the t-shirt over the gut. That's the decision that got you there. So you need to change your decision making process. It's that avoidance from pain that I remind these guys to use those before photos as the motivation to create the new habits, because motivation gets it going, and then the habit formation and the discipline is what you build. It looks like you're itching to say something.
I was just going to say, I think more people need to challenge themselves, because it's not challenging yourself which has gotten you to the point that you've gotten to now. Again, I've been guilty of it, right? You take the simple pleasures, and funny enough, avoidance of pain, you're looking short term. I want to avoid pain right now. So, you eat the chocolate bar, or you eat a burger or whatever it is, because you're trying to run from something. But do the work, do the hard work. Like you've said on a podcast before, choose your pain, right? Like, do you want the pain of regret, or do you want the pain of I've lost my train of thought.
Yeah, choose your hard.
Choose your hard. Yeah, correct. So, do you want it to be hard now, or do you want it to be hard forever?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Well, it's that discipline is freedom thing, isn't it? And there's something very fulfilling like getting to the end of a workout that you didn't feel like doing.
Yeah.
You really feel accomplished in yourself, don't you? Like there's really no higher high. I haven't experienced it anyway.
No,
that's lasting.
There's a great satisfaction in choosing the hard path and knowing that it's going to benefit you.
Yeah.
Right. It's even like when I started saying no to some foods and to again, the famous story of like I couldn't walk through a Coles without buying a chocolate bar. Like that was me.
It was a reward, wasn't it?
Not even. No, that was my avoidance from pain. I was like, I need this hit of dopamine real quick, because I need those endorphins. I need them because my life is gone.
How did you feel after the chocolate bar?
I felt good whilst I was eating it, and then as soon as I swallowed it, I felt like shit.
Guilty. Yeah.
I hate it. I was like, you piece of shit. you fat motherfucker. But that's because I knew what it was doing to me, and I knew I didn't need it. I was, I was 114, so I was like, 40 kilos
wow.
heavier than I needed to be, basically, or 30 kilos, something like that. So anyway, the point is, by making the right choices and challenging yourself, you're going to feel better about having made that choice as well. It's a confidence boost, right? You're just like, oh, wow, I can say no. And it's empowering. And then the more that you do that, the easier it becomes.
Yep. Agree. Okay, so the adherence equation is trust the fucking process and remind yourself why you started.
Yep.
And what was the last thing you said?
Do both.
Do both.
Do both. Do both.
Yeah.
Steps
Just
1
challenge
and 2,
challenge
and
yourself.
Step 3 is repeat steps 1 and 2.
Yeah. I mean, the other principle I talk about a little bit is total immersion. Like it is really, it's understated how important being in that kind of community like being in our kind of community is, like how important it is. And that's where I think your BFTs and your F45s and your boot camps and stuff like that, they're still surviving because people, they need that total immersion of other people that are doing the same thing to kind of, come on, mate, we'll do it together, inspire each other.
Yep.
You know, and obviously online that is more challenging to create, but I feel like since we've moved over to school and away from workplace, these are just two apps that we run our community in. I feel like that is helping a lot, like the guys sharing their wins,
Absolutely.
the guys seeing the success stories that we're filmed on YouTube, we're putting it in front of them constantly. And just that total immersion of what a rebuild is and all of the language and all of the stuff that we get these guys doing. I think by totally immersing yourself in that culture, it does help raise your standards by default. Because as you've said on a previous podcast, like you look around, most people aren't inspired. They're not on purpose. They're not in relationships they want to be in. They're not in jobs they want to be in. They don't look how they want to look. And they've given up. You know, like the famous saying is that adults are just decrepit children. They've stopped playing. They've stopped fucking being present. They've stopped dreaming. They're just on autopilot, paying off a mortgage, paying off a wedding, just kind of walking through life. You know what I mean? Whereas, and I mean, that might be okay. You might be happy doing that stuff. But what I'm trying to get at is that surrounding yourself with other people that are on the same journey as you, rebuilding, I think that's very understated as well.
Yep.
So remind yourself of your why, trust the process, do both at once, and elevate your standards by default by totally immersing yourself around other people that are doing it. And that's an understated benefit, I think, of the rebuild and what we do online, even though we're online.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not just access to me and to your co-coach on your weekly check-in, but it's being in that community constantly and being reminded of what's possible by other people's example. You know, being supported and seeing other guys winning. You know, if you're struggling a little bit at say 12 o'clock and the lunch truck pulls up and you're thinking about cheating, and then you get a ping from the MPT rebuild on school and you're looking at Alex Peacock's result and what's possible if you just stick to the program in 12 months, you're more likely to go, oh, well, this guy did it. So, you know, no to the lunch truck. Whereas the other 6 blokes that you're at work with, they're all saying yes to the lunch truck. So you're kind of pulled into making that decision by, you know, association versus what we're trying to provide. So, but you've also got to be smart enough to go looking for that. You know, like I've given everybody our podcast link. I've given everybody the Success Channel link on YouTube and stuff. Like maybe just start looking at that a little bit more often. You know, there's certain guys that I will say, like, you need to go through all of these just to remind yourself of what's possible in 12 months' time. You know, because again, a lot of our clients are so far behind the 8 ball, meaning they're so far away from Hugh Jackman's physique in Wolverine, that they've got possibility blindness. They're like, there's no way I can get there. That's not possible. I just want to lose 10 kilos. You know, so seeing these other guys do it, 1, shows that it is possible, and 2, offers inspiration long enough for these guys to change their habits. And if they change their habits for long enough, they will get that result.
Dare to dream, fellas. Just dare to dream. Just challenge yourselves.
Yeah. The other thing I want to do, but I think I'll do it next podcast, is talk about, like, I'm getting so much fucking steroid comments at the moment. And what I want to do is I want to show my scan, your scan, and like 20 client scans. You know, for example, I want to pick a bunch of guys that have more muscle on their scan than you, but then show you with your shirt off and then show them. Same with me. There are guys with more lean body mass than me on the scan, and I'll just show the difference. Well, I've got 8 kilos, probably not now, but I had 8 kilos of fat on this scan. This guy has 40. You wouldn't say he's on steroids, but he actually has more muscle than me. And we're the same height and age. I've got guys the same height and age. They got more muscle than me. Yeah. But you look at the photo or a video or in person and you're like, oh, wow. So I want to actually do a piece on that, just educating people on how specific we go on the scan and like what all that stuff means. And just the reality of, like, a lot of people think to look how they want to look, they've got to get on steroids because they've got to be huge. Whereas most of these guys that they want to look like aren't actually that big. They're just lean. Yeah. Which makes you look 5 times as big, doesn't it?
Especially on camera.
Yeah. Especially when I'm filming, yeah.
Well, when Joey Angles is behind the camera, yeah. But I mean, there's tan. And I mean, in my instance, I do have a level of muscle maturity that can be misunderstood as it's got to be steroids. Like there's certain density of muscle that you don't get unless you've trained for 20 years.
You're still getting that 10 years ago, man.
Well, same thing though. Like, I mean, I started at 14. Yeah. So like what I tell a lot of people is that I capitalized on puberty. Like my body was already, you know, spurting out a ton of growth hormone and natural testosterone, like every person's body does at 14. But instead of sitting on the Xbox and jerking myself off all fucking day, like most 14-year-olds do, or wasting their brain cells on TikTok and getting Texter's neck, I was in the gym, training hard, you know, and eating relatively well for back then, you know. I'd eat tuna and chicken, and I bought protein powder back then, 2002. There wasn't many protein. It wasn't even a protein shop. I think it was a health store.
Jeez.
So, you know, I made use of that period as well. So I think that's an element of why maybe sometimes some of my muscle maturity looks how it does as well. But yeah, I want to do that for the next one, for sure.
Do some blood tests.
I can do blood tests, sure. Yeah, because I get
There'll
that.
There'll always be haters though. Oh, you did blood tests when you're off cycle.
Oh, well, I'm getting that at the moment. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. The more I spend on ads, I was talking to the owner here before. He's like, oh, it's obviously doing well. You know, you guys are obviously growing. I'm like, yeah, I'm spending more. And I'm getting more eyeballs on what we do, and more people like, oh, that makes sense. You know, everything else I've tried isn't coaching. It's not a rebuild. It's not actually going to help me. These guys look good, you know, so I'm spending more on ads. I'm getting more eyeballs, but I'm getting more bullshit as well. And I'm getting
more money, more problems.
Yeah.
well, it's interesting, man, because like the steroid stuff's happened heaps. I get nice try Diddy a lot on my ads, which I love. I always love at that and laugh. I'm like, that's fucking hilarious. I had one recently say, no, two or three of them said, no, you definitely on the gear, you got chubby cheeks. And I was like, I don't really think I have chubby cheeks, but thanks. I was like, that's original, because I'm getting the toupee a lot, which I like that. That's fucking hilarious. And I'm getting, oh, you know, you're at least on TRT. There's no way. Or you might be natty now, but you've ran cycles before, and, you know, the keyboard fucking warriors and stuff. So
The experts that are, you know, 20, 30, 40 kilos overweight.
yeah. And they're always hiding behind like a cat profile picture or like someone worldwide. And
it's the Joe Rogan concept. Don't read the comments. Unfortunately, they're always there, but half of these people are mentally ill and just got no idea what's going on.
it is interesting though, because a lot of guys will mention my comments when I was doing meal plan calls, which I don't anymore. I do Loom videos. And the benefit of that is like the phone call. I'm on the phone with these guys for an hour and they're taking in 20%, 50% of the call. When I record this Loom, they can watch that over and over. Some of our clients are watching my first Loom recording like 9 times, which I think is great, because then they're educating themselves. Or if 2 weeks in they forget and they want to reset, they can watch that again and listen to exactly why I've given them what I've given them on the meal plan. But when I was doing phone calls, I used to get a lot of guys being like, oh, look, I really liked how you handled that hater, and that's what made me trust you more, which is interesting. So I have gone through periods where I don't even look at them. And then I've gone through periods where I try and bully them back. Then I've gone through periods where I try to re-educate them and say, mate, it's a shame that you feel like that. You're only self-limiting.
Cycles.
And at the moment, I'm in I don't know. Do I fucking hammer these cunts or do I?
I think you can read them, but you've got to realize who's on the other end of that key.
Yeah.
It's not.
But it's interesting. Like as I get on, 40 plus, I have the John Cena mindset. I mean, some people don't think he's natty. I don't know. Is he natty or not? I don't know. I've met him. He was big, but he wasn't that big. His physique's never really changed. Neither has mine in the last 15 years. He's never had a steroid side effect at all. He had that umbilical cord issue when he was born, which may have pushed on the pituitary gland, so he might have a bit more growth hormone than the average person, which is going to help him stay lean like he did. And why he's got big fucking hands and big kneecaps. When I saw him, I was like, fuck, this guy's big sausage meat hands, you know, when I shook his hand.
Fuck off triceps.
He's got the Samoan tricep, huge forearm.
This isn't for the podcast.
Oh, it can be. Yeah, we'll put some parts in. Huge fuck off tricep. He's 10 years older than me, like to the dot. And he swore black and blue down the camera on the Logan Paul podcast recently that he's not on anything. And that he openly said, if a day does come where my training goes to shit and my testosterone levels are below where they should be, then I will do TRT. And that's kind of my mindset. You know, like if I get to a point where I'm feeling old and shit, and it is because my testosterone levels are low, and they're not from lifestyle factors. They're not from booze, lack of sleep, no sunlight, eating fucking plastic foods and not all that kind of stuff, which I'll never do. So then I will look at TRT. But why would I do it now at 37? Because Alex Hormozi's doing it at 34 and everybody just thinks that that's why he's rich and famous? Do you know what I mean? Like it's just stupid. It's madness.
It's also called testosterone replacement therapy.
Correct.
So why would you do it if you got nothing to replace?
Because people want to be above optimal. And it's a way of them getting
I know.
their testosterone levels higher. It's a way of them doing testosterone without saying they're doing testosterone.
I know.
But you're right. The principle is replacement if it's not there naturally.
Warranted.
And why not explore every way possible to increase it naturally as best you can? So it's your body's own production of it. Why would you want to get it through, a weekly or monthly, however it works, injection at the doctor's?
Yeah.
It's just madness. So anyway, yep, that's me. We're done.
Spotify, YouTube, etc.
Yeah, etc. Yeah, look us up if you want. If not,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Leave some funny comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell these guys are lying. Their eyes are darting all over the room.
Oh.
How do we calm the pop natty? No holds barred. Yeah, well, we're leaning towards a bit of no holds barred, aren't we?